Thank you, Dion. And I think we're speaking on the same page tonight, today. A director of, Mr. Hay, director of the Financial Investigation Division of the Ministry of Finance, and all the members of that department and the other visiting delegations from the various government agencies involved in the investigation in this area, along with our visiting delegates. Good afternoon to you. It's really my privilege to be with you this evening. I hope you had a good day. I understand the conference is going very well. It's my privilege to address you this evening on what is a very crucial topic. I think I've had the privilege of working with Mr. Hay for some time, and he knows I speak very often, we need to follow the money. That's what ultimately is the cause of much of the problem. Over the past two days of this conference, of course, you have seen the coming together of all the critical stakeholders and the key partners under the anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism regime. I have no doubt that the rich deliberation, discussions, and enhanced partnerships will take us closer to correcting some of the shortcomings identified in the mutual evaluation report of the National Risk Assessment being done for Jamaica. Interestingly, this biennial conference is taking place at a time when we are in the process of developing a national organized crime strategy in collaboration with our international partners, the United Kingdom and United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. A technical working group has been established, and it is being led and co-chaired by the Ministry of National Security, Jamaica Constabulary Force, and the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, POCA. It comprises representatives from the Jamaica Defense Force, the Jamaica Customs Agency, which plays a crucial role in all of this, the Financial Investigation Division of the Ministry of Finance, of course, also the Director of Public Prosecution, the Passport Immigration Citizens Agency, and the University of the West Indies. Over the past 4 years, the government has taken a number of measures to strengthen the country's AML safety framework. The latest such measure was taken in January of last year, that's 2022, when I presented an order in the House of Representatives for the designation of trust and corporate services providers as designated non-financial institutions. This designation has brought Jamaica near to full compliance with our international obligations and practices, but we do have a way to go. It has also sent a clear signal about Jamaica's stance against money laundering and all forms of financial crimes. Money laundering, financial crimes they're really what eats out it's literally eats out the strength of the economy. It undermines a lot of us, much of what we do to try and build the economy. More critically, it corrupts various state agencies because huge sums of money are involved in international and transnational crime in Jamaica. And Mr. Jackson Miller introduced me to speak of the advance fee fraud, otherwise called lotto scamming, which generates huge amounts of funds illegally and penetrates all elements of the society in where I'm from, and it's spreading quite rapidly across Jamaica. But the more the police get effective at intercepting them, they move from place to place. And we find that in this case of advance fee fraud, it's very easy to move. It's not one that has anything in bulk. It's a cell phone, smart instrument. And interestingly, I find them moving to areas where we have some very remote areas, because wherever there's a cell phone tower, it's an ideal place for them to go. So we find them moving from kind of the comfort of the city into some remote areas like Germantown, the hills of St. James, which is way up in the hills, or Cascade in Hanover, because it has all the transmission towers nearby. And that therefore places a particular challenge to the investigators. Essentially, this designation of trust and corporate service providers applies to any person or entity providing a trust service. A corporate service, it allows these entities to fall within the regulated sector as provided by the Proceeds of Crime Act. Without equivocation, the designation of trust and corporate service providers designated non-financial institutions has strengthened Jamaica's AMLF safety, and that's just a further step in the right direction. There's more to go. These measures so far have significantly supported the efforts of law enforcement and other stakeholders to stem money laundering Nevertheless, there are still some other measures that we are expecting to come into effect that will help to close some crucial gaps and deficiencies that exist within the system given the nature of our economy. Firstly, the government is eagerly awaiting the outcome of the UK Privy Council judgment in relation to the 2013 amendment to the Proceeds of Crime Act regarding attorneys reporting suspicious transactions by their clients. Secondly, we are looking to further amend the POCA Act to allow for a wider application of the Unexplained Wealth Order as part of the legislative framework dealing with money laundering and other financial crimes. These orders will ensure that competent authorities will be able to apply to require an individual to explain and account for the origins of their assets. This, of course, has to overcome a small hurdle, maybe not so small, in some areas, as a concept the law's advisor referred to as reverse burden proof was in fact removed from our Constitution. Well, not removed, it was just written out. I think a number of laws in the room, but when the Charter of Rights was being written, this was just not returned to the chapter it was in, and it has serious implications in terms of investigating individuals in money laundering. The United Kingdom has it still because the United Kingdom operates on a common law basis and precedents, and it's a very powerful tool. We took this element of right of privacy a little bit far, and it has put some constraint on our capacity to investigate this particular kind of activity. But I have the lawyers reviewing it, and we hope we can find a route to genuinely investigate individuals with significant amount of unexplained wealth, but no visible, no known predicate criminal offense. Because that's really the benefit of this kind of amendment. Our current legislation for the average citizen is that we have to identify the predicate offenses before we can move to seek a genuine explanation. And in our economy, that can be a bit challenging. Another measure we're examining is the broadening of the business and professions that are covered under the non-financial institution designation. Some of these include real estate developers, car dealers, hardware dealers, and microcredit business. The developer with cash from illicit sources can in fact retain that cash, buy hardware in large volume, and build huge buildings without ever going to a bank. And in fact, essentially legitimizes wealth when it disposes of the particular real estate. It's an area that has to be examined, and we're looking carefully at getting that aspect of the POCA amended to provide you, the members of the FID, MOCA, and all the relevant security organizations enough tools to really intervene here, because the criminal activity is a business. The object is to earn money. Clearly, the public impact of buying weapons, killing citizens, traumatizes society. But all of this comes back down to those who are earning money and buying the guns. We just last week, we identified in a shipment 22 firearms, 21 what is called ghost guns. To do that kind of operation requires significant resources and a network of support that reflects, as I said, someone who has been in the business and has the money to really undermine elements of the state. It is therefore important that all possible outlets are covered in dealing with this kind of criminality. Notwithstanding, I believe that the POCA as a tool is underutilized, and therefore I would concur with the view that money laundering needs to be, as a matter of course, considered in investigation of a wider range of offenses such as fraud, larceny, extortion, counterfeit goods, and human trafficking. It's a thought I know that the director of the 5 years said or repeated to me over and over, and it means really increasing the level of collaboration, working together of both the FID, MOCA, the police force, and the intelligence unit of the military. We're a small country, and all our resources have to work together to ensure we can optimize their skills and get at these characters who are damaging our community. One of the challenges that we face as a country, of course, in combating money laundering and other financial crime is that Jamaica is a highly cash-dependent economy. You know, this is part of our legacy and history. Jamaicans love cash. And a lot of the You know, part of that is a culture. For many years, we have engaged in practice such as partner plans, burial schemes, same-day loans recently added, all part of the culture and part of the financial section today. Additional studies, however, have shown that a large segment of the population is very cash-oriented. As I said, a recent Capri study, in fact, confirmed this. It says 72% of individuals receiving cash payments have a high inclination towards seeking tangible assets and thus prefer to use whole cash. Another 45% of wage earners opted to receive wages as cash or checks, despite more than half of them having bank accounts in which they could have received their payments. What this means in the context of transnational crime, such as drug and gun trafficking, is that there are huge challenges to track and trace illicit funds in a highly cash-dependent economy like ours. We gave this, once they get, in addition to being cash-dependent, we're a tourist center and we're expanding tourism. That's our object, and Prime would love to see tourism get from the current rate, I think, just under 3 million. I'd love to see Jamaica enjoying 5, 6, 7 million annually. We've got 10 million visitors. Then I know the country's wealth creation will be significant. It would impact on the quality of life for all the people. But when you have that level of tourism and the kind of system you're operating, you'll have huge amounts of cash flow going through. Despite of the tourists coming from a country that uses credit cards, I think up to 80% of the time, they still come and they spend a lot of cash. And it's encouraged because that's how they spend the money around the community. The hairbread on the beach, they make more money than the person working 8 to 4 in the hotel. And there's the informal economy and there's drugs, of course. But there are several things they do actually that are quite legitimate and they pay in cash. Tourists too, they go into supermarkets, they spend cash. So you have huge amounts of cash tossing around, and that provides a kind of foundation on which those who earn cash illegally will spend it, and you're not sure, quite frankly, where it's coming from. It does provide a challenge, I know, for the investigators, how to deal with that kind of cash flow within our economy. But we have to find a way, and I'm hoping that a conference of this sort, as you share experiences, look at new ideas and new ways, we can begin to identify and apprehend a number of individuals who might be using, just capitalizing on our tendency to really operate in cash and continue to allow criminal elements to undermine the country's economy. In the United States, as I said, as where much of our tourists come, unlike Jamaica, credit cards are used in over 75% of the cases. And it's not in my text, but I think most recent visit to China, which is the world's second largest economy, they use almost purely digital funding. They resist taking, they don't want cash, and they actually resist a credit card. Everybody uses a telephone. There is currently almost a cashless revolution of sort that's taking place with the rise of digital payments. The government is seeking to get citizens to adopt the official digital currency in order to gain more control over their economy and the movement of money. We have just barely introduced a digital transaction in Jamaica, and we hope we can expand it. Even the educated in society is resistant to change. It's human nature. When you have there are the peculiar numbers, small numbers who like to challenge the boundaries, but the average normal person is very resistant to change when they have gotten used to it. Children learn quickly, like they on computers, but those of us who are adults, it takes a little while to accept that this is a new way of doing things. And of course, when you get things like the fallout of FTX and this digital currency, the more conservative will say, see, I warned you, this kind of money is not good money. You like to see cash and reality and real assets. But certainly we have to look at a country encourage the use of the digital mechanism. Several countries developing have found that it does, in fact, increase inclusion. We don't often refer to the big continent, Africa, but Kenya, for example, has used digital money to really reach its small farmers. And Jamaica has an extremely high level of penetration of cell phones. And all we use is to talk and talk and talk. We need to improve that. So it's something that the government is looking at. We are sensitive to it, and it is a far more efficient mechanism of doing things digitally, but it's an area where we have to look at how we can expand its use in the economy. It will provide a better base on which to have not only for growth and development, but certainly protect the economy from invasion by criminal elements. In light of all this, the critical task for the law enforcement agencies to be sufficiently trained to understand how money moves in our economy. Admittedly, this can be a very intrusive and challenging task, as it is now when you have to look for cash rather than trace movements electronically. As criminals use a wide variety of money laundering techniques to make illegally obtained funds appear clean. Consequently, investigators have to develop the skill and craft to be able to identify and separate the genuine funds from illicit funds. In our situation, particular attention must be paid to the wide cross-section of business activity, for individuals involved in music production to event promoter and all the cash-dependent business. It is, for me, always remarkable I don't do it too often, but if you walk into an inner-city community and there's a dance going on at the square, and name a few in my constituency, and when you walk in, of course, I can tell you, you look at the bar list. Well, this MP cannot order a drink because the shelf is lined with Hennessy White, and I think the bigger bottle, I think, is about 500 ml. It's selling for $55,000. And the dance is like to go for $65,000 and $70,000. And then he goes to the next level of regular Hennessy, which is $25,000. And Moisture and Pink, and of course Belvedere vodka. And that's the lineup of liquor. And they will have some white rum at the bottom somewhere, which they use as a chaser, right? And in that community, which is among my socially defined challenge communities where I have problems of violence, not as bad in that area. Interfamily violence is bad, but gun violence maybe there, and other issues that the planning institutes will look at and suggest that we have a community that needs certain intervention. But within a 3 or 4 hour period, I can assure you a couple $1 million passed across the counter. And individuals who are operating the business, all aspects of the business, because within that network, so they have developed a full service business. So there's one young man whose activity will have a tent. He has several tents. He has people to provide services, and they in fact acquire the liquor by concession, and they know at the end of the night all that liquor you see on the shelf, which I said, I don't think there are many people in here who can actually order up and buy a bottle of that sort. And a friend of mine recently gave a gift. That's why I know the price of the Hennessy White, and my wife, little business supplied hotel. But that's the kind of price we're talking about, and they're not selling one bottle. Like when you go into a gift shop or a supermarket, you keep the top shelf, you keep 2 bottles because you're in the business. They're buying them on an ongoing basis. I think the first time I went there, I was amazed that they're moving the Hennessy, and they have a habit of actually putting a kind of sparkler on the bottle. And you could turn off all the lights in the building because there are 6 or 7 of them moving across the room all the time, which reflects the kind of cash flowing through the institute at this venue at the point in time. I mentioned these just to say that I recognize this as challenges that you face as investigators in identifying those who are involved in use of illicit money, how to identify it and get it, because the promoter is quite likely a very registered promoter. He would have informed the bank that he's having a dance, and he would have maybe even already has some capital and tell the bank he's going to be spending $1 million or $2 million on promotion. So when he brings $10 million in cash, and the next morning he has even if it's reported, he has a very valid documentation how he has earned his money. That's the kind of thing that has to be tracked and monitored, and it is not the easiest thing to do, because you then have the challenge, I said, of even when you identify the players in there and they have no predicate offense, I know you have a time proving that their money is illicit. It provides good information, good intelligence, but in terms of prosecuting, it's a challenge, and that's where I'd hope your discussion can assist in leading and setting the framework for effective investigation of this kind of activity. Many studies have shown that most crimes are committed to generate and benefit and benefit the individual involved, and violent crimes are oftentimes linked to dispute over these benefits. In fact, not oftentimes, they're always linked to disputes over whether the money is shared right or other activities done that failed. And of course, it's all illegal, and therefore, if you break the rules, you get a violent response. Used effectively, POCA can assist in areas where it has not been traditionally used, such as investigating into gang activities. Illicit proceeds from gang activities finance the purchase of illegal guns and the running of the gangs, which are at the heart of our criminal violence problem. We must follow the money, then we will apprehend the criminals, lock them up, and confiscate their ill-gotten gain wealth. The FID has had significant successes, maybe not as well known as it should be. I've advised the director that we should maybe allow some of this information to be a bit more well known, because it's not just for the impact and the assurance it gives the society, but I need to warn people that we can find them and we can lock them up and we put them away and seize the illicit gains involved, so they apply their mind to more productive, honest work. But I think society is also concerned that those who are earning money are beyond the law. And I think when we can convey to them that it may take long, it is tedious and difficult, and I know it's challenging for all of you as professionals, but you are doing the work, and we are having successes there. I have a whole street. Mr. Hay owns a whole street in Montego Bay, in a high-end community. I'm trying to get him to do something about it. In closing, a whole street of homes, high-end homes. In closing, let me again commend all the stakeholders for organizing such a critical conference, especially at a time when we are not only seeking to widen the use of POCA to improve collaboration, but to further strengthen international cooperation, bearing in mind that the US dollar is still the currency of choice for criminals globally, and certainly in Jamaica. It does mean we have to work with our partners across the globe, major criminal organizations or international organizations. In fact, in Jamaica, you have had different acronyms indicating who are. So we have...
Yeah, having a little bit of a technical glitch, so as we're just trying to...
Okay, I'm closing. Thank you. We have the names of gangs, of individuals allegedly involved in serious organized crime. And let me use the right term, sir. Men who have the kind of resources can take a charge with slander, but you have some names which imply what happens, that the organizations are pretty international and global. You know, references made to promoters called the British Link-Up. And of course, you have the other big operators that have sister organizations in North America. Currently, 6 is in Miami, Montego Bay, and Trinidad. And we can have several other examples of the international linkages behind these. So I'm hoping, and besides commending this effort today, that the outcome of here will be increased appreciation of the challenge we face and sharing of best practices that will help us to overcome the operation of these individuals, so as I said, continue to not only undermine the economy and damage the fabric of society, but are the managers of the criminals who kill our citizens on an extremely high, untenable rate. The officers who have organized this have been very, I think I said, are doing an excellent job. We are moving forward much more effective than to appear with their numbers, but there's much more to be done. I can only assure you that whatever legislation we need to do, this government is prepared to make the required amendments and adaptations to give the police the required tools and the required investigating unit, police, FID, MOCA, and other agencies, the required tools to effectively deal with these criminals. Thank you.